Welcome to Love by Design, the podcast for high-achieving women who are ready to stop performing for love and start building it from truth, from alignment. Welcome back to Love by Design. This is Joan. So today I want to start off with a question. Have you ever known that something was off in a relationship and still you found yourself saying, but the chemistry is so incredible? Maybe the attraction was intense. Maybe the conversation was electric. Maybe you felt drawn to this person in a way that was difficult to explain. And somewhere inside that experience, the chemistry started becoming evidence. Evidence that the relationship was significant, evidence that the connection had potential, maybe even evidence that you should keep going. This is where a lot of very intelligent people get into trouble because chemistry gives us information. It does not give us instruction. And that distinction matters a whole lot. So in my framework, the Real Attraction Pyramid, chemistry answers a very specific question, which is, what pulls us together? That pull can show up as physical attraction. It can be sexual, it can be intellectual, it can be emotional. Sometimes it's fascination, sometimes it's playfulness, sometimes it's that strange sense that you cannot quite stop thinking about the person. All of that is great. All of that is real information. Yes, something is happening, you're responding, your system is activated, your attention is heightened. You feel drawn in. And there's nothing wrong with that. The problem begins when we ask chemistry to answer questions it was never designed to answer. So questions like, can we build a life together? Can we communicate when things get difficult? Can we repair conflict? Do our values work together in practice? Are we moving towards a future that can actually hold both of us? Chemistry can't answer any of those questions. It only tells you that, yes, there is a pull. And I think this is one of the biggest mistakes we make in modern dating. We experience something powerful, and because the feeling is so powerful, we assume that the meaning must also be powerful. Not quite. A relationship can feel extraordinary and still function poorly. You can have an incredible sexual chemistry with someone who maybe cannot even hold you emotionally. You can talk for 6 hours straight with someone whose lifestyle is fundamentally incompatible with yours. You can feel magnetically drawn to a person who repeatedly shows you that they are not available for the kind of relationship that you want. The chemistry is still real. The interpretation is where discernment comes in. And that is the heart of relationship intelligence. One of the things I often say is that people do not always suffer because they lack information. Most times the information is already there. We suffer because we misinterpret the information. Chemistry is one of the easiest things to misinterpret because it feels so convincing. When that attraction is strong, it can start coloring everything else. A delayed response from a person can feel mysterious rather than inconsistent. Mixed signals can feel complicated rather than unclear. A major incompatibility can suddenly become something you believe love can conquer everything. Potential starts carrying more weight than present reality. You start saying things like, well, he's going through a lot right now, or she is just scared, or we have such a great connection, or when we're together, everything feels amazing. And yes, maybe all of that is true, but relationship intelligence asks a different question. It asks, what does this attraction mean when I consider everything that I know? That is a much more useful question because chemistry is just one dimension of a relationship. Compatibility is another. And the distinction between those two alone can change a lot of things. So like I said, chemistry is asking, what pulls us together? Well, compatibility is asking, how do we function together? Those questions can produce very, very different answers. You can be deeply attracted to someone and function terribly together. You can enjoy someone tremendously and still discover that your communication needs are very, very different. you can feel close to someone and still notice that your conflict style creates repeated damage. Same problem every single time. You can love spending time together while also realizing that your needs around commitment, around lifestyle, affection, family, or pace are consistently at odds. That doesn't make the relationship a failure. It gives you information. And the purpose of discernment is to help you understand what kind of information you're actually looking at. I've had relationships in my own life where chemistry became my argument for continuing. I could see things that were not working. I could feel the questions. I could notice the inconsistencies. And still, I would return to how strong that connection felt. I thought that the strength of the feeling meant I needed to keep exploring. But now, I'm older and wiser. What I understand now is that I was asking chemistry to answer a compatibility question. Chemistry cannot do that. It can tell you that you're drawn to someone. It can't tell you whether that relationship is going to work. That requires lived evidence. It requires observation. It requires time. It requires tons of conversation. It requires looking at how the two of you actually function together. And that's where the real attraction pyramid becomes so useful because it slows down the meaning making. Instead of collapsing everything into just one random question, which is, do I like this person enough? You start to separate that information. So you start asking yourself questions. What is chemistry actually telling me? What is compatibility telling me? What is conscious alignment telling me about where this relationship might be going? And then you now need to interpret those things together. This is where I want to give you a very simple practice. When you feel strongly pulled towards someone, don't argue with the chemistry. No way. Do not minimize it. Do not shame yourself for it. Just name it accurately. So you can say things like, I feel a strong attraction to this person. Simple, clean information. And then I want you to ask, how do we actually function together? And then once you've sat with that one, you can ask the third question. Where is this relationship going? Those questions will start to bring you back into reality because one of the most important disciplines in relationships is learning to let different truths coexist. You can have strong chemistry and challenging compatibility. You can have strong chemistry with someone whose direction is completely different from yours. You can enjoy the attraction and still decide that you need more information. You can feel deeply drawn to someone and choose to slow the pace. You can care about someone and decide that the relationship is not something that you want to continue. That is conscious choice. The point of relationship intelligence is not to remove feeling. The point is to help you interpret feeling wisely. And I think that matters, especially when the chemistry is so intense, because intense attraction often creates urgency. You want to know. You want to know now. You want to decide. You want to move closer. You want to move things along. You want to define what this means. And sometimes the most discerning decision is simply not deciding more than the available information allows in the moment. You can let the chemistry be there. You can stay curious. You can observe. You can watch what happens next. You can allow the compatibility to reveal itself through experience instead of assuming that chemistry will carry the entire relationship. And this is a very, very different way of dating because it requires patience. It requires you to be self-aware. It requires enough trust in yourself that you don't need the feeling to give you an answer before the relationship has actually provided one. So if you're dating someone right now and the chemistry is super strong, I want you to ask yourself those three questions. What exactly am I responding to? Is it physical attraction, emotional intensity, attention, familiarity, sexual chemistry, intellectual stimulation, a sense of being chosen? And when you get specific about what you're responding to. Next question I want you to ask is, what does the lived experience tell me about how we function together? Not the fantasy that you dreamed of in your head, not the potential, not the version of the relationship you hope is developing, how you actually communicate right now, how you respond to the differences between both of you, how you handle uncertainty, how you feel after conflict if you've had one, what happens when one of you has a need and the other person does not naturally understand. Those are compatibility information. And for the third question, I want you to ask, where are we actually going? Not where could this go? Where is it going based on what is happening right now? Are your intentions compatible? Is your pace compatible? Are you building towards the same kind of relationship? Are your lives moving in directions that can realistically come together? That is conscious alignment. So yes, chemistry matters. I don't want you to hear this episode and walk away thinking that attraction is somehow shallow or unimportant. No, no, no. It matters deeply. It's often what brings us together in the first place. It's the spark. It creates the energy. It creates curiosity. It makes the connection feel alive. The mistake is giving it authority over the whole decision. Chemistry deserves your attention. Sure, it does not deserve the final vote. So the next time you feel that undeniable electric magnetic pull, don't ask yourself, what does this mean? Start with something a little bit simpler. Like I said, what is this telling me? Then look at the rest of the relationship, because attraction is information. It is not instruction. And when you learn to hold chemistry inside a larger picture, you'll find that your decisions become clearer. You stop asking the spark to predict the future. You start paying attention to how the relationship actually functions. And you give yourself a much better chance of choosing consciously. If you want to understand how clearly you read relationships when your feelings are involved, well, I want to invite you to take the Relationship Intelligence Assessment, the RIQ test. It'll help you reflect on how you interpret relationship information and where your discernment is already strong or where it may need some more support. You can find the RIQ on my website, that's joannwosu.com. And remember, the quality of your decisions will never exceed the quality of your discernment. I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me on today's episode. And if it stirred something in you, trust that. Alignment isn't a concept, it is a calling. Until next time, remember, you're not here to earn love, you're here to embody it. So keep dating by design, not by default. See you next week.